Patricia Danzon, photographer. Patricia's professional career was in economics. She was a tenured faculty member at the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School for 30 years. Her photography training has included classes in darkroom processing and photography at the University of the Arts and Delaware Community College, and many workshops in the US and abroad with acclaimed professional photographers to continually expand her vision and skills. She is particularly drawn to nature and landscapes, realism and abstractions. Her style and subjects are eclectic, both local and global. The common theme is use of light, line, texture, color, and mood to show the simplicity and the wonder in our world. She prints her own images using archival inks and papers. The pandemic inspired her to visit local parks and nature preserves in search of hiking trails and photographic opportunities. She is showing some of this work in the February show and hopes that it will inspire others to enjoy the beauty of this area. Patricia is also a qualified guide at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. You can find more of her work at www.patriciadanzonphoto.com.
My name is Patricia Danzon. I'm a photographer. I normally shoot landscapes and nature, cityscapes when I'm traveling. Of course, during the pandemic, traveling was out of the question, and so the work that I'm presenting today was taken on adventures closer to home when I was out hiking in the local trails and preserves. We're starting off in the area around the Schuylkill River where the Pacquiaoman Creek joins the Schuylkill River. And there are trails both along the Schuylkill and along the Schuylkill Canal. This first shot shows the bridge over the Schuylkill River, and it gives a sense of the history of this area. So there was certainly some industry, and some of the structures from that period remain and add some man-made interest to the natural beauty. This bridge really drew me with the sequence of arches, the reflections in the river, and then the trees and the winter sunlight. The second shot shows the Schuylkill Canal, which meanders alongside the Schuylkill River. This was built in the early 19th century, used for transporting coal, and now the towpath is a good hiking trail. At this time, the trees are just bare skeletons, and there are a number of interesting shots possible showing the reflections of the trees in the water. This third shot of the red house by a bridge was taken on a beautiful, crisp day when the light and the puffy clouds provided a sense of the winter scene that is very different from the sort of dull light that we get in our more humid summer days. So actually winter is a better time for shooting outdoors from the standpoint of light and clouds. Here the clouds and the blue sky and the red house just providing a very interesting reflection in the canal with the bridge over the canal. The canal also has a lock, and the fourth image shows this lock, which I converted to black and white to give a sense of just the timelessness, perhaps, and the abstract nature that drew me, the contrast between the geometry of the upper half of the image, which is the lock gates, manually operated, shown, of course, closed here, against the foreground, which is a pattern of algae, a very soft pattern in the water. The lock was maintained by a lock keeper, and the house adjacent to the lock is quite a massive structure with an interesting architecture, 3 rows of windows. You notice how they're decreasing in height as you go up, but quite a substantial and fine house that is being maintained now sits surrounded by trees adjacent to the lock. The 6 image shows more tree reflections, here closing in on just a portrait of some of the tree boughs reflected in what was a very muddy canal that day. But I was able to draw out some of the color contrast in post-processing and get the soft colors of the lark against the darker silhouette of the tree trunks. Then the seventh image, tree reflections in fog on a foggy morning. This is along the Schuylkill River, where the fog was really heavy and almost enshrouding the trees, but I was able to pull out the reflections of the trees in the water as well as the rows of trees on the bank for a really eerie, somber scene. The eighth image, trees in fog, is more of a close-up of those same trees in the fog reflected in the water. And then a brighter image, bow over the Perkiomen Creek, where the blue sky provides a more soft blue background in the water, against which the overhanging bow makes almost a Japanese feel to the shape of this image. Shifting to a very different landscape now, the preserves that are maintained by Natural Lands in Chester County. This is rolling farmland that still has trees and former fields that are maintained by Natural Lands and have miles of hiking trails. This is Cheslin, which you can see the path meandering up the hillside there, and then the lines of trees providing an interesting background to the scene. Another shot from Cheslin with two trees stripped of their leaves in the winter scene, but standing silhouetted against the background. Alongside Cheslin there is a stream, and this is reflection of the bare tree trunks in the stream, the ripples and the soft colors that produced, that again I was able to bring out in post-processing. And then moving to another Natural Lands Trust further north near Phoenixville, this is Bryn Coed, with more rolling hillside, rows of trees, but the subject matter here really is just the rows of puffy clouds and the evening light that is such soft light at the end of the day. Bryn Coed is noted for its fine Bryn Coed oak. This is a white oak that's estimated to be over 100 years old. It's in the Natural Registry and provides just a fine silhouette against the clouds. The path provides a leading line that draws one's eye into the scene. If you do go and it's been raining, take waterproof boots, because these paths get very muddy in wet weather. Also in Bryn Coed, a scene of the more geometric shapes that drew me from the rows in the planted grass, the fence, and then the row of trees behind. Very much the winter scene there with the bare trees, but the green grass still growing in the foreground. Finally, two rather different scenes from the McCaig Preserve, another privately maintained preserve in Montgomery County, which has hiking trails and just rolling hills. This is a tree trunk prepared for winter with two dried leaves against the solid trunk. I like the contrast there of the delicacy of the leaves against the solid trunk. And finally, McCaig in winter light, showing the soft winter light filtering through the trees, the shadows cast by the tree trunks, and the trees standing, preparing for the spring, standing in this bed of leaves from the previous year. So I hope you've enjoyed this wander through the local trails and preserves with me, and I hope it inspires you to head out to enjoy some of nature and perhaps take your camera with you as spring approaches. Thank you.